America owes $37 trillion, more than any country in history has ever owed anyone. Nobody's coming to collect because nobody can. Here's why. And why that's the real reason the war with Iran won't stay paused. August 15, 1971, President Nixon goes on TV on a Sunday night and says something simple. The dollar is no longer backed by gold. That's it. There was no vote, no warning. That should have killed the dollar. Instead, it made the dollar the most powerful currency on Earth. To see the trick, you need two scenes: a vault running empty in Washington, and a handshake in a desert palace. Quick rewind on why Nixon did it. America had spent the 60s printing dollars to pay for Vietnam, while promising that every one of those dollars could be swapped for gold. France ran the math on that promise, didn't like it, and started shipping its dollars back and demanding the metal. Britain lined up behind them, asking for $3 billion more. The vault couldn't cover the promises, so Nixon closed the window before the run emptied it, which left a problem. A dollar backed by nothing is paper with a president on it, unless you can make the whole world need that paper anyway. 3 years later, Henry Kissinger flies to Riyadh with exactly that pitch. Sell your oil in dollars, only dollars. In return, we protect your kingdom. Mr. Secretary, protection, meaning what exactly? The most powerful navy in human history parked off your coast. And if we decline, it's still parked off your coast? Saudi Arabia says yes. The rest of OPEC follows. Here's what that buys America. One chain, 3 links. First, oil is the one thing every country on Earth needs. If you can only buy it in dollars, every country on Earth needs dollars too. Second, the countries selling that oil end up holding piles of dollars they can't spend at home. So, the money goes into American banks and American debt. Third, America uses that money that keeps flowing back in on its own, to keep spending more than it earns. Forever. Normal countries get punished for spending like that. Their currency crashes. America hands out more IOUs and watches the world line up to buy them. Picture running a tab at a bar where the bartender has to lend you back everything you spend. That's the tab America runs with the entire planet. It's how you afford a military bigger than the next 9 countries combined and tax cuts in the same budget. The bill exists. It just never comes due. It's a loop. Oil goes out priced in dollars. Dollars come back in and buy American debt. As long as the loop keeps turning, America can owe the whole planet money and never have to pay it back. There's only one way to break a loop like that. Someone has to stop plugging into it. Nobody did, until America gave them a reason. Fast forward 50 years. Russia invades Ukraine. America's answer: cut Russia off from the global payment system and freeze $200 billion of Russian money sitting in European banks. $200 billion. Most of it parked at a single clearinghouse in Brussels. Russia can see the account, but cannot touch it. Keep that number in your head. It comes back later in this story. Because the whole loop ran on one promise. Your money is safe, no matter who you are, no matter who you're fighting. That promise is the entire product. The dollar has no gold behind it, remember? The promise is all there ever was. The second it breaks for Russia, every other country holding dollars asks the same question. If it happened to them, why not us? Exactly. Nobody has to answer that today. But it sits quietly in the back of every finance ministry from Beijing to Riyadh. A warning light nobody's turned off yet. And you can already watch the answer forming if you follow what central banks bought next. Gold. In 2022, they bought more of it than in any year since 1967, and the buying hasn't slowed since. Saudi Arabia let it leak that it might price some oil in yuan. India started paying for Russian crude in rupees and dirhams. Small moves, test balloons, each one a country quietly loosening its grip on the dollar to see if anyone punishes them for it. Washington, can see the test balloons too, which is why there's a Plan B. And Plan B floats. If people stop trusting the money, there's only one thing left to control: the oil itself. Second chain, also 3 links. 1. Almost a fifth of the world's oil sales through one narrow stretch of water, the Strait of Hormuz, right next to Iran. Every tanker leaving the Persian Gulf has to pass through it. 2. Whoever can shut that strait, or make everyone nervous enough to think they might, controls the tap. And Iran's whole strategy fits in one sentence: make the insurers panic. One burning tanker, and premiums across the Gulf triple overnight. The tap tightens without a single shot fired at the US Navy. 3. The US Navy is the only military built to keep that tap running for everyone else. And America has treated that job as a red line for half a century. Said so out loud on the record. 1980, State of the Union, Jimmy Carter. Any outside force trying to control the Persian Gulf will be repelled by any means necessary, including military force. 7 years later, Iran started mining the Gulf, so the Navy painted American flags on Kuwaiti tankers and escorted them through. The biggest convoy operation since World War II. 4 oil tankers. That belonged to somebody else. As long as America controls the water, it controls who gets to buy oil safely. Take that away, and the first loop, oil for dollars, dollars for debt, stops being guaranteed. It becomes a favor America has to keep earning. An empire that has to keep earning its power is a subscription service. And subscriptions get canceled, unless the customers can't leave. And these customers can't. China buys more Gulf oil than anyone else on Earth. Roughly half of everything it imports comes from the Middle East. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the whole neighborhood, well beyond Iran. Solar panels make good headlines. They don't run steel mills. Europe just spent 3 winters weaning itself off Russian gas, and a big piece of the replacement ships out of Qatar. Same neighborhood, same strait. Cut that off too, and picking sides stops being the question. Europe is cold. And cold arrives as a gas bill on a kitchen table in Munich, tripled in one winter, addressed to a family that never once thought about the Strait of Hormuz. Add Japan, which gets 9 out of every 10 barrels it imports from the Middle East. Add South Korea, which buys its energy the same way. The list of countries that can shrug off a Gulf shutdown gets very short. It's one name long. So, the rest of the world has 2 options. Ration what they've got. Or ask Washington nicely. We'd like a guarantee the strait stays open. Of course, happy to help. And in return, you'll keep buying your oil in dollars, like always. That's the board as it sits today. Which brings us to the question hanging over all of it. Why the shooting doesn't just stop. This next part is an argument, and I want to flag it as one. Nobody outside a war room knows what happens next in a live conflict. But here's the logic driving it. Wherever you land on where it leads. A ceasefire fixes none of this. The $200 billion is still frozen in Brussels. China, Russia, and Iran are still quietly talking about trading in something other than dollars. The gold keeps piling up in central bank vaults. All of it survives a month of quiet. And there's a clock running underneath. In 2025, Washington spent roughly $1 trillion on interest payments alone, more than it spent on the entire Pentagon. America needs the loop turning just to afford the debt it already has. Every year, the trust erodes a little more. The interest bill climbs a little higher. And in certain rooms in Washington, settling the question with carriers starts to look cheaper than settling it with bond auctions. So a ceasefire buys time. And both sides know what the time is for. Reloading. To be fair, wars end for all sorts of reasons that have nothing to do with grand strategy. Exhaustion, elections, a general who's had enough. But as long as the money question stays open, The fighting keeps finding its way back to the same stretch of water. Pull back far enough, and the last 60 years run on a single thread. From Nixon's Sunday night speech, to a frozen vault in Brussels, to the tankers idling at Hormuz. Every country that's ever run the world's money hits the same question eventually. Is it cheaper to keep printing, or cheaper to keep fighting? Britain got its answer in 1956. It picked a fight over the Suez Canal, and Washington, which held Britain's war debts, threatened to crash the pound. London backed down within weeks, and the empire quietly wound itself up over the decade that followed. Whoever holds your debt owns your foreign policy. In 1965, a French finance minister named Valéry Giscard d'Estaing watched what America was getting away with and gave it a name: an exorbitant privilege. 60 years later, those 3 words are still the whole story. It was never about oil, or gold, or ships in the Gulf. It was about who gets to owe the world $37 trillion and never pay it back.